Okay, hello. In the last lesson, we examined U.S. actions and policies in the Middle East, going back to the 1953 U.S. and British overthrow of the Prime Minister of Iran, installing a dictator, right? And then we went through a whole number of things: formation of OPEC, U.S. hitting peak oil production, losing control of price, Yom Kippur War, all the nationalization of oil, taking it out of Western hands. All right, leading then up to the 1980 Iran-Iraq War. This is kind of the main focus of the last lecture. And we examined how the United States supplied both sides of the war, our ally and our enemy, with weapons, war materials, and intelligence. All right. All right. Uh, and then we went into an incident where we screwed our ally Iraq bad. Gave them false intelligence, gave their enemy intelligence, Iran, and gave them key weapon systems, right? Sold them key weapon systems, all right? And how that was all discovered by Iraq with the release of information about the Iran-Contra in November of '86, right there, yeah. Hits Iran-Contra conspiracy hits the public. Everyone knows now. And then the Reagan administration's on trial in the Iran-Contra hearings, which is an opportune time for Iraq to get a little payback. When the Reagan administration is on trial and cannot point the finger and accuse Iraq, otherwise they'll point the finger at themselves. All right, I said how it's my contention that this was totally intentional. It was not an accident, even though the Reagan administration rushed to claim it was an accident within a day of it happening, immediately. All right, bullshit. Right, I'm not going to go into all that again. Right, they had motive, they had opportunity, and they took extraordinary measures. Right, that's typical cop stuff. Any good cop would look for that. Right, that's what you do when you want to form a case against a suspect. Right, motive, opportunity, taking measures. Okay. All right. Nevertheless, what we're going to do today is, well, first of all, I want to discuss that there's a method to lie and pass and control public perception called the Mark Antony method. I've taught that many times. And one of the many elements within that method is to delay an attack until 24 hours later. It's been proven time after time that if you make an immediate attack right after I present information, it always backfires. Now, right after I present maybe 400, 500, 600, maybe even 700 facts in a lesson, all right, typically only three, the average person remembers only three facts if I teach this one-on-one. If I teach it to a group, it's even less than that. It's one or zero specific facts remembered by a whole group. All right? There's less direct interaction. They sit back as passive receivers and, what? Okay, yeah. But you know what? What happens is immediately after the lecture, they retain an overall impression. All facts are gone. I swear all facts are gone. And, you know, if I give this one-on-one, maybe three facts are kind of retained. They're sketchy, they're erroneous, they're bare bones minimum, right? They're usually the simplest things, something that is really trivial that stands out in their head, right? And that characterizes it for them. But they retain the overall impression, but that impression fades. By 24 hours, it's gone. Thus, my material is totally wide open to attack. And that's a key element of the Mark Antony method. So sure enough, they waited over 24 hours, maybe like 28 hours yesterday about, and they launched an attack about dinner time. Why? Because no facts nor even the overall impression will be retained by them. All right? If they're forgotten, it's easy to attack. Now, the only thing that will be remembered is the social reality wave, which is being blasted and repeated in their heads, right? Creating big momentum. And everyone's like, yeah, I knew I was right because everyone's saying so. It's based on nothing. So why did they attack, the liars attack at dinner time? because they know I won't be out among the people, and I won't pick up indication of the attack. And it'll be there, and it'll have total advantage, right? Gain the momentum, right? Become established before I can say anything. And I never have direct access to what is being said. I always have to guess, right? They do that on purpose. They keep me isolated out so I can't defend myself. And, this method has been used thousands and thousands of times, and I keep teaching it probably thousands of times, and everyone falls for it every single time. All right, anyways, today's lesson, this is what we're going to cover. We're going to go into the history of the Reagan administration's sale of weapons to Iran. It's not just Iran-Contra. It started almost immediately after they came into office. I mean, I believe for good reason at first, but after Iran went on the offensive, not for good reason. I will examine that. All the laws and U.S. policies the Reagan administration broke. I mean, half dozen laws broken. We'll go through the policies, and when you examine the policies that we broke and why we make those policies, you won't just be shocked. You'll be pissed off that they did this, right? To Americans. All right. A detailed examination of the 4 bullshit reasons for selling weapons to Iran. I mean, these are seriously ridiculous, right? We'll go through a detailed examination here. An examination of all the lies told by the Reagan administration. All right, we won't go into detail examine lie by lie, but we'll just cover categories of lies that they conducted. The curious, and I say suspicious, total absence of all discussion within the Senate Iran-Contra investigation report, anyways, of the potential impact of the weapon sales to Iran upon oil price. I mean, to me, this is the 14,000-pound elephant in the room that you can't walk around, right? Let alone fail to notice. How do you not notice this? Right? This would be the chief thing in my mind, right? No one's talking about it. Why? Right? I think that was the key issue here, because that's going to impact world economy. It's going to impact all U.S. economy. It's going to be huge. All right, and then we'll cover briefly, oh, by the way, when to find this out, I searched. You can search a PDF document I discovered, right? At least some PDF documents. So, maybe it's the way it's formatted, but this one you can search it, and I searched for oil, all the entries, right? Read every damn one. I mean, it's well over 1,000, and I read what they said about each one, and there was no discussion about oil price, how the weapon sales will affect oil price. And then I did the same thing with Casey. I did a search for every appearance of his name, right? And with that, I was able to kind of piece together his role in the Iran-Contra affair, and it looks to me, although I can't say I have definitive proof because I'm relying upon their evidence, and they're not looking at Casey as being the ringleader, right? I can tell, right? They're looking at North and Poindexter and McFarland and those guys, right? I think behind it all, Casey was kind of the puppet master who was pulling the strings, and whether the rest were suckers, which you kind of think they're not that stupid, or they're willing participants in what was going on, right? All right. So yeah, I say, though I don't believe there was enough evidence given in the Senate Iran-Contra intelligence report to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. All right, so let's focus on the Reagan administration's history of weapons shipments to Iran. Oh, by the way, the reason why I'm doing this is because, in my general lecture here, okay, I cannot give you massive details. Otherwise, you're going to get sidetracked and lose the big picture. Here, I'm trying to show you the big picture, and I can't get into details, but at the same time, I know that's going to, open me up to attack, just like the attack the liars made on the Iran coup. I just made a general statement, right? And I know the knee-jerk reaction is, "I don't believe it, bullshit," right? And they probably created a big wave there, and it's real because there's a big wave, and that's all people have in their head. No real evidence or facts or intelligent analysis, just a big social reality wave. But it's blasted in front of their face, and that's the only thing in their brain. I swear that's the case every time. All right, so now let's take a look at the history of Reagan administration's supplying of weapons to Iran. So just shortly after taking office, just after inauguration in January of '81, the Reagan administration reversed U.S. policy and decided to supply Iran with weapons and weapons repair parts funneled through Iran. All right. One source for this is New York Times. One source I had is a Hero book on Iran Contra, but there is kind of a classic report by Seymour Hersh, who did an investigation contacting people involved in this weapons sales, especially Israelis who are more likely to be honest and non-partial, all right, because they're not directly involved in the U.S. End of this, right? He contacted a lot of Israeli generals who were involved in this trade, so that was his sources, and so the funneling of weapons began. It's an Iran pipeline here, just shortly after Reagan administration took office. Now, weapons and parts included repair parts for U.S.-made fighter planes, and I know that they had U.S. F-14s, F-4s, F-5s, all very capable fighter planes, right? F-14s being the best, and F-4s, F-5s being somewhat limited, but very maneuverable plane. M60 tanks, M113 armored personnel carriers, tow anti-tank missiles, Hawk aircraft, anti-aircraft, and land surface-to-air missiles, 155 millimeter artillery rounds, and I think I kind of recall cited like 13,000 rounds. 13,000 rounds. I don't know if that's a big deal, right? I mean, you fire a lot of these suckers in a battle, so. But we sold them some. All right. Plus, they had other sources of weapons. There were plenty of independent weapons dealers in the open market selling U.S. weapons. All right. Stated purpose: to avoid Iranian defeat, which could lead to increased Soviet influence in the region. Avoid Soviet influence in Iran if they should turn to the Soviet Union for weapons. And this is extremely unlikely. We'll cover why below here when we get to bullshit reasons. Let's see. Yeah, here's the bullshit reasons. I'll cover that there. I'm not going to go into detail right now, but it's bullshit. All right. But that's stated in the Iran-Contra investigation report. For example, it says here, SIG, which is Senior Interdepartment Group members, concluded, quote, that U.S. efforts to discourage third country transfers of non-U.S. origin arms would have only a marginal effect on the conduct and outcome of the war, but would increase opportunities for Soviets to take advantage of Iran's security concerns and to persuade Iran to accept Soviet military assistance. I will show you below how this was total bullshit. All right. All right. Now, I believe that there was valid reason early on in the war, right, for supplying weapons to Iran. All right. So what do I say here? I believe the greatest threat to Iraq was Iraq's acquisition of 90% of Iran's oil reserves. Remember, in the Khuzestan province, that's where Iran has 90% of its oil reserves, and remember, that's just across the border to the east of Iraq, right? I mean, within probably a 50-mile range or 60 mile, that's like that whole Khuzestan oil field there, right? Now that would have been a huge strategic, I guess, not error, or a huge strategic problem. If you let Iraq get that oil, right, it would be a major disruption of the regional balance of power and threaten to increase oil price. We talked about this yesterday, right? In fact, I totally reject the Soviet threat from weapon sales, right? Or Soviet influence, threatened influence from weapon sales, right? I think this is real here, right? This is why I would supply weapons to Iran, right? Okay, so with this, although this is not stated, but I believe, hell, I don't have a problem with them supplying weapons early on because when the war started, Iraq initiated the war, right? They had to jump on Iran. Iran was unprepared. They just went through a revolution, and they cleared house. The military. It was almost like Stalin heading into World War II. He cleaned house in the Soviet military. Right? A lot of the skilled, experienced, commanders, they're gone, in prison or executed. Right? Iran cleaned house too. They weren't ready. And so initially, Iraq just plowed through, took a lot of the Iranian oil resources, right? However, the threat of Iranian defeat passed fairly soon, right? As the Iraq offensive soon stalled out. And by June of 1982, that's less than 2 years after they started the war in September of 1980, Iran had retaken nearly all lost territory. By the spring of '83, Iran would be on the offensive and winning the war until spring of '98. All right, that's when Iraq launched its second fall offensive. The second fall offensive, which was, Iraq launched it. So Iraq was on the offensive finally in the spring of '88, and also according to Reagan. Iran was on the ropes economically. They were battered. They're in bad shape economically, right? They're gonna have trouble fighting the war. In the spring of '83, the Reagan administration began Operation Staunch in an effort to reduce the international flow of weapons to Iran. It's not stated in the Iran-Contra investigation report, but I'm willing to bet they realized that Iran no longer was vulnerable. Iran had the advantage. So we're going to try to cut back on weapons supply to Iran. And Operation Staunch was launched to block not just U.S., but international weapons, right? They tried to get agreement with other nations. A lot of these private contractors, though, were independent operators of private companies, under, minimal control by the national governments, right? And so, I'm willing to bet they had trouble, all right? But the U.S. didn't even stem the flow of U.S. weapons, Reagan administration, right? Because Israelis kept selling Iran U.S. weapons and U.S. weapons parts, all right? And the Reagan administration kept authorizing the restocking of the Israeli stocks of U.S. weapons, right? So that's facilitating Israel's sale of weapons to Iran, right? Even after we launched Operation Staunch, right? So there's kind of contradictory actions here. The Reagan administration was fully informed of the Israeli weapons sales to Iran, yet never ceased replenishing the depleted Israeli stocks, after they sold Iran weapons, while failing to report third-party weapon sales to Congress as required by the Arms Export Control Act. That's one of the laws that were broken. The Arms Export Control Act says that, hey, one of the clauses says, hey, if there are any third-party sales, right? For example, if we sell arms to Israel and they sell those arms to Iran, that's considered a third-party sale, and that's got to be reported to Congress, right? Reagan administration is not doing that. And they're fully informed of these. They're in full awareness of these sales. So here is some quotes provided by Seymour Hersh. Remember that I told you that classic article, right? He's contacting here what's called a high-level Reagan administration intelligence official who wants to remain anonymous, right? That's how you get them to talk on record if you promise anonymity, right? So anyways, he says, we were getting literally daily reports on Israeli sales to Iran. A former high-level Reagan administration intelligence official said, it was so routine, I didn't think twice about it. It was pretty clear that all the key players knew, all right? Except for Reagan. Except for Reagan. Reagan was like, what? he knew, but he lied his butt off in the Iran-Contra hearings. He perjured himself like crazy. He changed his story daily, day by day after it first broke. right? Emitting more and more. uh, all right, but anyways, uh, kind of funny. According to Israeli Major General Tamir, a high-ranking Israeli defense official in 1981, during the Iran Contra, or during the weapons third-party transfers, quote, every month we gave a list of American weapons and American spares we like to sell to Iran, right? So when he's saying we like to sell, that's requesting authorization, all right? Okay, he said in a telephone interview this week. Yeah. So Seymour, that's Seymour Hersh's research. He's got some press credibility that he can make contact with these guys and get them. All right. All right. Summary. So shortly after coming into office in 1981, the Reagan administration violated the U.S. arms embargo to Iran, right, and supplied weapons and war materials to Iran via Israel. That's third-party stuff, right? I have not found a document on the arms embargo. All right. Oh yeah. By the way, I say arms embargo here, right? And I searched for it on the internet. I didn't find a document on it, right? And on page 157 of the Senate Intelligence or Iran Contra Intelligence Investigation Report, it says, you're right, it refers to an arms embargo, but it refers to the date, which was the November 14th, I believe, of 79. Yeah, November 14th of 79. Oh, yeah, right there. September 14th of 79. Oh, no, September 14th of 79. September 14th of 79. All right. I didn't find an arms embargo on paper, right? But the executive order of this date froze already in essence, and the key purpose of an executive order is not just to keep their assets, but to prevent any future trade. This obstructs trade. I mean, that's the main thing. You're blocking any future trade with Iran. You're cutting them off, right? Any money they have, you just grab hold of, right? So they have no money to trade with, right? That's the main idea. So I believe, maybe it was under the umbrella here. So the reason why I clarify this, make it clear, is because I know that the liars are just seeking. They're desperately seeking for any little point to attack. Here's a little point, right? They're going to make a big attack. They'll shift all focus here and say, see, it's all bullshit. You can't believe any of it. That's what they'll do. They'll try to grab any little point. All right, so at the start of the war, when Iraq had the upper hand and was on the offensive, I have no problem with providing weapons to Iran, given the threat. The key threats were Iraq gaining control of Iranian oil would give them military dominance. They'd have plenty of extra money to buy weapons, right? Build up their forces. You know Saddam's going to do that, right? Then he's going to become the major power in the Middle East. That's going to be destabilizing. You don't want to threaten the stability within a region that's critical for oil production for the world, right? You do that. Saddam's if he gets that weapons, right? He's going to turn next to his next little juicy tidbit, which is going to be Kuwait. All right, you can't allow him to get that. All right, so Iraq control of Iranian oil would give him way excess spare production capacity, with which he can cut production and drive up oil price. You would give him control of oil price, right? To some extent. I'm not sure how much, but you know what? You're gonna give him some control of oil price. That's not good. You can't put it in the hands of Saddam Hussein, right? That's putting too much power in his hands. Now, by June of '82, Iran clearly had the upper hand in the war. It was on the offensive, right? They'd taken back all their territory lost by June of '82. That means they're on the offensive, right? Before that, the Reagan administration then instituted Operation Staunch to stem the flow of international weapons to Iran, right? Yet the Reagan administration continued to supply weapons and war materials to Iran via Israel. Okay, right? Oh, shoot. All of this was before Iran Contra. All right, so even before Iran Contra, well, we're getting weapons to Iran, right? All right. So I got a problem with supplying weapons to Iran after Iran's on the offensive. All right. There's no need to supply weapons. All right. Okay. Iran Contra weapon shipments 85, 86. So we're going to examine laws broken first. Well, we're going to start with policy. Policy violations. One policy is you don't bargain with terrorists. Right. The policy is to never bargain with terrorists, especially Hezbollah. Man, you don't bargain with terrorists, right? You're just going to encourage more terrorism. Especially Hezbollah, who had bombed the Marine barracks, killing 307, including 241 Marines. Remember that? I remember that. 75 Marines injured, right? Hezbollah had bombed the U.S. Embassy in Lebanon, killing 63, including 17 Americans. Remember I mentioned this yesterday? I didn't know the exact number total killed. 32 Lebanese, 14 visitors, and 120 injured. Is that up to 63? I don't know. Okay, that's 46, 56. Yeah, that would be 63. All right. So Hezbollah was also taking the American hostages. You're going to bargain with these guys for getting the hostages, right? Now, you can say, oh, we didn't bargain directly with Hezbollah. Man, we essentially bargained with them because we're bargaining with the country that created Hezbollah, that has direct control and ties with Hezbollah, who supplies Hezbollah. We're bargaining with Iran, who created Hezbollah after Israel invaded Lebanon in '82. That's when Iran moved in to Lebanon big time, and they formed Hezbollah. And then Iran and Hezbollah were connected at the hip. And then since 1982, the U.S. was aware of Iran's support for both Hezbollah and also Islamic Jihad. Both of these groups were taking American hostages, right? Iran is supporting them. What does that mean? We know Iran is, what do you want to say? A sponsor of international terrorism. That goes here. Okay. All right. Now, Secord. Here's kind of a tidbit. You know, I mean, this was stated. Where did I get this from now? I don't have it cited here. I'm pretty sure I got this from the Senate Intelligence Iran Counterintelligence or Investigation Report. I may have got it from Hirsch. But anyway, so Secord and Akeem negotiated a deal which included the release of 17 Dawa terrorists. Okay, so in one of the deals, the Iranians demanded, the release of these terrorists, Dawa terrorists. I don't know what they were all about, but I know this. On one day, they conducted 5 bombings, a spree of bombings in one day. They bombed the U.S. Embassy in Kuwait, right? Screw that. They're bombing the U.S. Embassy. You release these guys. French Embassy in Kuwait. And then they bombed a U.S. civilian compound in Kuwait, a desalination plant in Kuwait, and an oil refinery in Kuwait, right? 5 bombings, right? They captured 17 of these guys, right? Now, the deal to release these guys, part of the deal, was approved by the Reagan administration officials, though the release of the Dawa 17 never occurred. Okay, so it never occurred, but on paper, Reagan administration officials signed off on this deal, right? Conducted by who? 2 privateers, right? They're not U.S. government officials. They're not foreign policy experts, right? They're privateers hired in a front company for the National Security Council, the Enterprise. Secord and Hakeem, right? It's a bullshit episode. Maybe it's minor, right? But it just shows you the crap that's being done, right? What crazy stuff is this that we're doing? Few principles of U.S. policy were, quote, this is from the Senate Iran Contra Investigation Report. Few principles of U.S. policy were stated more forcefully by the Reagan administration than refusing to traffic with terrorists or sell arms to the government of Ayatollah Khomeini of Iran. Right? Along those lines, before the Iran-Contra scandal here, in January of '84, Secretary of State Schultz, who was one of the straight shooters here, remember I said that Schultz and Weinberger were like some of the few straight shooters involved here. Guys like, man, you should be doing this crap, right? So Schultz, he had designated Iran a sponsor of international terrorism, and a few days later, on the 24th, right, 4 days later, the U.S. announced Iran would be subjected to U.S. government regulations limiting the export of U.S. military equipment to countries that have repeatedly provided support for acts of international terrorism. Right? That's a quote from the Senate Iran-Contra Intelligence or Investigation Report. Right? So, do we know they're supporting Hezbollah and Islamic Jihad? Yeah, we know they're supporting terrorism. These guys blew up, two U.S. Dawei blew up one, but Hezbollah blew up Marine barracks and our U.S. embassy. Right? They're taking our hostages, and we're giving weapons to these guys. What the hell? Some craziness. I mean, it makes you sick. All right, bargaining for hostages, right? I'll get into why that's really bad down here, but you never bargain for hostages, right? Right? It's always bad policy to bargain for hostages because that rewards hostage taking, which only encourages more hostage taking. On June 30th, 1985, this is right before Reagan authorized the sale of weapons for hostages, Reagan declared this, quote, "The United States gives terrorists no rewards and no guarantees. We make no concessions. We make no deals." Right? Yeah. USA. Bullshit. Yet only a month later, in August, Reagan would authorize the sale of weapons to Iran in exchange for hostages. What is that? That's a deal. That's a concession. Come on. Moreover, Iran repeatedly screwed the U.S. by not releasing hostages as promised. Right? But the rate 6 times we fulfilled deals. 6 times they screwed us. Every time. You get screwed once you stop. You don't keep doing it. And we would have kept doing it until it was found out. I bet there would have been more deals. I just bet. Right? The Reagan administration continued to sell arms in broken deal after broken deal. The number of broken deals will be shown below. There are 6. 8, but really you can't count 2 because we didn't fulfill the deal on our end. Now, only 3 of the 7 hostages were eventually released. Instead of all as promised repeatedly, while at the same time 3 more hostages were taken for a net gain of 0, proving that proving that bargaining for hostages only encourages more hostage taking. Plus, 2 were murdered while we're trading weapons while we're all right. You think this is working? Operation Staunch. Okay, so this is the policy. Spring of '83. Okay. After it was clear that Iran was winning the war by June of '82, the Reagan administration launched Operation Staunch in the spring of '83 in an effort to block the international flow of weapons, munitions, and weapons repair parts to Iran. Right? I mean, there's a whole big open market, all these private military, weapons dealers, right? Getting a hold of U.S. weapons, U.S. private companies selling them the stuff, right? Not only did the Reagan administration violate their policy with the Iran-Contra weapons sales to Iran, but since the beginning of the war, they continued to replenish Israeli stocks with full knowledge of Israeli weapons shipments to Iran through frequent reports, including monthly reports from Israel. I showed you the source for that above. All right. So they're violating their own Operation Staunch. They're trying to, I mean, it's like there's two different parts. Operation Staunch, no doubt, was a State Department thing, run by Schultz. He's trying to stem the flow of weapons. Behind his back, they're still selling weapons. Arms embargo against Iran. All right, so again, this arms embargo, you got to take with a grain of salt, because I didn't find, stated copy of this, although the Senate Iran-Contra investigation report cites this embargo on that day, but on that day, that's a day when Jimmy Carter had executive order, so maybe they did two things, but I didn't find this, right? So, that's something that if I state certainly, right, the liars are going to attack, right? They say, we didn't find it. I didn't find it either, right? But it's stated by the Senate report. First, in response to the hostage crisis, then because, okay, quote. Oh, this is a quote from the damn thing, page 157. Quote: Since November 14, 1979, that's the date of Carter's executive order. First, in response to the hostage crisis, then because of the Iran-Iraq war, the United States had embargoed the sale of arms to Iran. Right? Now, I didn't find the embargo in my research. However, the Senate Iran-Contra investigation report may be referring to President Carter's executive order, right, 12-170 of that date, which froze Iranian assets, prohibiting all trade, which would include arms sales. Maybe it's like an umbrella thing. I don't know. Maybe there was. I didn't find it, right? But the Senate. I mean, this arms embargo is something that the Senate should know about. So I guess I would take them as being a credible source here, although I tend to want to find it myself. But that's my caveat, that I didn't find a document myself, right? Because I don't want to be like, look at these bullshit. They'll find any little thing, shift all focus onto it, and then try to use that to say I'm total bullshit. Arms Export Control Act. All right, so this is a law on the books. I found it. I found the whole damn law. I got that in my notes. Required reporting. So part of the law, one clause in the law, required reporting to Congress for all third-party transfers of U.S. weapons and material equipment to other nations. That would mean Israel to Iran, U.S. to Israel to Iran, third party, right? Intermediaries can be Israel. National Security Act, Section 5. I want to tell you, as far as the laws, right? These are all similar, except for Boland Amendment, right? Both of all these three here, the Constitution, National Security Act, Section 501, and Arms Export Control Act, require reporting to Congress, which is violated. So really, I give you three extra laws, but they're all violating the same thing. But they're all three different laws violated. Boland Amendment was a different law that was passed by Congress, signed by the President Reagan, right, prohibiting funding of and military aid to the Contras, right? So they broke that. So National Security Act Section 501 on congressional reporting required congressional intelligence committees must be kept fully and currently informed on intelligence activities of the United States. All this secret damn stuff that the NSC was doing was intelligence stuff, right? Intelligence operations, covert operations, right? Intelligence activities includes covert actions and financial intelligence activities. That's stated in that's stated in the document here. Both of which were involved in the Iran-Contra scandal. Must promptly report illegal intelligence activities promptly to the Congressional Intelligence Committees. Well, hell, they're conducting it. They're not going to report it. They're doing it. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. We forgot to report the illegal crap that we're doing. Okay, yeah, right. Okay, Boland Amendment 1 and 2, both of which prohibited financial and military aid to the Contras. Two amendments. Lastly, the Senate Iran-Contra investigation report said in violation of the Constitution, and you know what they said? They said a general sentence like it violated the appropriation clause in the Constitution. Oh, that's what it says here. Wait, okay. conducting. Okay, so this is page 18 of the document. Conducting the covert program in Nicaragua with funding from the sale of U.S. government property and contributions raised by the government officials was a flagrant violation of the appropriation clause of the Constitution. Right. So both of these, selling U.S. property, right? Do they have a right to appropriate U.S. property? No, that's illegal, right? Congress holds the power for that, holds the power of the purse, right? All right. So this is what the Constitution says, Article 1, Section 9, right? And I'm guessing this is the appropriation clause, right? Appropriation. I've read the whole Constitution. I studied it, but I'm not quote an expert to know the different terminology here. It says no money shall be drawn from the Treasury, but in consequence of appropriations made by law, right? What does that mean? By Congress. Congress controls the purse strings. They don't control purse strings. And a regular statement, so that's part of the statement here, right? You got to report it to Congress. Of receipts and expenditures of all public money shall be published from time to time. So that's the reporting to Congress. This is Congress controls the purse strings made by law. Who makes the law? Congress, the legislative body. All right. So yeah, I can see that. I guess that is, the appropriations clause. All right. All right, now let's move on to some bullshit reasons. The 4 bullshit reasons for selling weapons to Iran is, we're going to get out the hostages, right? Oh, we're going to get money to the Contras. That's why we're doing it. Oh, Iraq is winning the war. Oh, bullshit. Oh, there's a Soviet threat. They're going to dominate. They're going to take over Iran. They're going to dominate Iran. They're going to have influence around. Bullshit. All right. So, in my opinion, the Reagan administration's 4 stated reasons for selling weapons and military parts to our enemy, Iran, are total bullshit. And I'll show you why. Right. So, here's a list of all the hostages taken. Now, okay. When these simple dates like this, I got this from Wikipedia. I mean, it's easy to get these dates. For dates like that, right? I mean, a lot of people don't like using Wikipedia. A lot of people point the finger, oh, he's using Wikipedia. For something simple. I use Wikipedia, in a lot of my research for one was, whatever, so-and-so Secretary of State. When was he, Treasury Secretary? When was he when was he Vice President? Whatever, right? You get simple dates. When did the Korean War start or whatever? Come on. It's not detailed, classified stuff, all right. People try to find any little weasel angle to attack. I swear I can't stand people. People can be so dishonest. It makes me sick. Right? I know they just attacked yesterday. They made a big preemptive attack before I started this. So bargaining for hostages. The hostages were being taken by Hezbollah and Islamic Jihad, right? Both sponsored by Iran. In fact, Hezbollah was created by Iran, right? And Hezbollah was bombing our embassy and the Marine barracks, killing a lot of Americans. You bargain with these guys. You never bargain with terrorists because that rewards terrorism, right? And that opens you up to more terrorist taking, which they did. So when we started this arms for hostages thing, they were holding these hostages at the very start. Then while we're making these deals, down below, I'll show you the deals, they took 3 more. And in the meantime, they killed this guy, Peter Kilborn. They killed this guy, Robert Dean Stetham, right? We still keep making deals for hostages. Bullshit. I mean, if you're really an American, if you're really patriotic, your blood should boil, right? A lot of people are like, oh no, right? I'm going to support the Reagan administration because I love Uncle Ronnie, right? He made me feel good. All right, you never bargain for hostages because that only rewards hostage taking. Yeah, I read that right. Time after time, the Reagan administration was screwed by Iran with broken deals on release of hostages. Yet they continued to provide arms for hostages. Plus murdered, plus 2 murdered. All right. Plus 3 more taken. All right, so here are all the transfers. And in red here, I show when we're screwed. I don't count these transfers because we didn't fully fulfill the arms, the agreed deal here. So the first transfer was 96 tow, and the deal was for 500. So okay, they didn't give us any. All right, we didn't get the full 500. That make, I'm not going to count that against them. But we completed the deal when we then shipped 408. That's the full deal for the first 500. And instead of getting all the hostages as agreed upon, they gave us 1, right? Then we sold them 18 Hawk. Now the deal was for 120, so we didn't fulfill the deal, right? So they didn't give us any. Okay, right? Can't count that against them because we didn't fulfill the deal, right? But then we sold them 500. They screwed us, 0-5. There's 5 remaining here. This one of the 6 was gone. And then another 500. They screwed us again, 0-5. And then we sold them Hawk missile parts. We got only 1 of 4. And the reason why it's 4 now is because they killed this guy. Kilburn is dead. So there's only 4 remaining. Right? They screw us again. They kill a guy and they screw us. Then we sell them Hawk missile parts. And they screw us, 0 for 3. Right? Then they take 3 more hostages in the meantime, right? Kill this guy, right? We sell them 500 tow, and we get only 1 of the 5 remaining, right? It's 5 now because they've taken more, right? Replenish their stocks, right? Hey, it works. Let's go take some more damn hostages. And then they took 5 more afterward. After this is after we this is after. Okay, so this is September of '86. In November, that's when information hit the streets. I'm willing to bet we could have made more deals. It stopped probably because they're caught out, right? They're caught with their pants down, the Reagan administration. And then they started lying their asses off. What? This is all untrue. What? Okay, we knew about it, but, right? I mean, if you go through Reagan's lies, he's like incrementally just changing his story, admitting a little bit more, a little bit more. It's funny. It's like, what the hell, right? How stupid do you think the people are? Well, they pretty much don't remember jack. I swear. It's like in one ear, out the other. All right, so while only 3 of the 7 American hostages were ever released, Hezbollah took 3 more hostages for a net gain of 0. That's a good deal. Killing killing 1, I guess. That's why you don't negotiate for hostages, because it's only encourages more hostages taken. And then they took 5 more hostages. Well, wait, 3 more hostages. Boy, they killed 2 here. I'm sorry. They killed 2 here. These are the 5. That's what I'm referring to. And this guy was killed. That's what I'm referring to, I guess. Right? So they took 5 more hostages, killing 1 of them. Okay. All right. You should never make deals for hostages, and certainly you should stop after being screwed once, right? But the Reagan administration continued to sell around weapons after being screwed 6 times, right? I mean, that's crazy. 6 times you're screwed and you keep selling them weapons. Well, I do believe there was a sincere effort to free the hostages. I mean, why not, right? That cannot explain all the failed weapons for hostage deals. Why do you keep selling them weapons, right? This is a bullshit reason. Why do you keep selling them weapons when they take more hostages? Why do you keep selling them weapons when they kill hostages? All right. There had to have been another motive, right? All right. And especially since we sold them these weapons, right, during the critical Iranian Fall Peninsula offensive. Before it, right, they had these weapons available to them. which stole the Iraq access to the Persian Gulf, which is what threatened Kuwait, which drew Kuwait closer to us, right? Which had consequences, and which pissed off Iraq, which had consequences, in the Stark. All right, okay, now we'll talk about the Contras. All right, so the profits from the illegal sale of weapons to Iran was funded through a National Security Council front company called the Enterprise. Just like how all the drugs were funneled, were transported through CIA front companies, Air America and Air Cargo Transport, right? And the money was laundered by a CIA front bank called the Nugan Bank, right? Well, NSC had a front company, the Enterprise, run by two of these douchebags, retired Major General Secord and Albert Hakim, right? Two privateers. Of the $16.1 million in profit, this is according to the Senate Iran-Contra investigation report, only $3.8 million got to the Contras. That's 23.6%, less than one quarter. Don't give me this crap that you're trying to get money to the Contras when you give them less than a quarter, right? Why did they give them the lion's share? The lion's share remained in the possession of the Enterprise, Secord and Hakim, the private operators of the Enterprise, 66.3%. That's almost 3 times the amount that the Contras gave. Why are these guys keeping 3 times more than getting the Contras if you're really trying to get money to the Contras? Right? I mean, they should just get a fee, if anything. Right? Of the 1.6 million, North used 1 million for other covert operations. I don't know what he's using it for. Right? It didn't say. Could have been decent. Could have been bullshit. I don't know. And then if we add up the numbers, there's 700,000 left over, and who knows what happened to that? Who knows, right? In the end, most of these arms sales profits would remain with the Enterprise and never reach the Contras. That is a quote from the Senate report. Okay, so another bullshit argument that was actually sold to Reagan is Iraq was winning the war. This is one of the things Poindexter sold the sale of weapons to Reagan on. Right? And remember I said yesterday, if Reagan really bought this, I mean, you got to question his competence to be the president, right? A major war is going on in a critical part of the world, and you have no idea, right, who's winning it. What's the basic? I mean, you're getting damn intelligence reports all the time, right? The best access to intelligence, and you don't know. I mean, what is he doing? Yeah. All right. So, anyways, one of the arguments used by the National Security Advisor Poindexter to convince Reagan into approving the weapon sales to Iran was a false notion that Iraq was winning the war. Untrue, right? Iraq had invaded in September of '80. Remember I said they had the initiative, they had the offensive, but it soon stalled out, and by June of '82, it's all reversed. So that means Iran was on the offensive, taking back territory prior to June of '82, because in June of '82, they'd taken back all lost territory. Or just about all lost. From then on until '88, Iran would have the upper hand and be on the offensive until the Second Battle of Fall. That's April of '88, right? Iran was beat down economically, and then Iraq went on the offensive and recaptured the Fall Peninsula. All right, this means that by supplying key weapons to Iran, the Reagan administration was not balancing the war, but was further offsetting the imbalance of war in favor of our sworn enemy and against the country who threatened to export Islamic revolution. All right, so this means the U.S. was shifting the balance in favor of the government that vowed to threaten. Oh, I got that already. Oh, shoot. All right. Yeah. So Iran's a threat. We don't want this spread of this Islamic revolution, right? Um, the U.S. weapons were provided to Iran right before and during the major offensive, which began in February 10th, right? Which Iran captured Iraq's Fall Peninsula, cutting off Iraq's access to the Persian Gulf. Right, both TOW anti-tank missiles and Hawk anti-aircraft missiles are critical to an offensive ground operation. Just like the Maluka anti-tank missiles and SA-3s and SA-6s were effective in the Yom Kippur War. I told you that analogy, right? I mean, they had to know. You had this key example here. They know that these weapons are key, right? They're proven to have been key to a ground offensive back in 73. Threat of Soviet domination, influence in Iran, right? It was argued that an Iranian defeat would make them vulnerable to Soviet takeover. However, Iran was not losing and on the edge of defeat. Iran was winning the war since 82 and would stay with the upper hand until 88. Certainly, they're in good shape in 85, 86. Right? Hell, they're on the offensive at that time. Furthermore, Soviet military capability was grossly over-exaggerated, with the Soviets already trapped in a quagmire in Afghanistan, 79 to 89, receiving a beatdown from the Mujahideen, a ragtag guerrilla force, albeit highly motivated, right? Iran, on the other hand, had a sizable force armed with the latest U.S. weapons, F-14s, F-4s, F-5s, M-60s, M113s, TOW, anti-tank missiles, Hawk missiles, Lance missiles, all the small arms too, right? Now, I'm sure there's going to be some Yahoo military, dipshit who's going to say, I'm a military expert. Soviet Union was immense power, right? Come on, they're getting their beat down at that time in Afghanistan, right? You think, I mean, a lot of people don't understand wars, right? It's a sociological problem more than anything else. Furthermore, should the Soviets invade Iran, there would have been a legitimate reason for the United States to supply large amounts of U.S. weapons to Iran. So this would have given good reason for the U.S. Just like when Iraq was winning, right? Okay, you don't want them to gain all that extra oil reserves, right? So this would have been a reason too, right? And what would happen? We would have bled the Soviet Union dry, just like we're bleeding them dry in Afghanistan, right? It'd be no sweat off our brow. We could sustain that forever. It'd be low visibility, not even barely reaching the American public eye. Americans aren't even be paying attention to that, right? You can sustain that politically, domestically forever, right? Not in Russia. That's going to fragment the country. All right, analysts say that a big part of the fall of the Soviet Union was their loss in Afghanistan. Right? You think they can afford another loss in Iran? It's going to be a lot worse. Iran's a bigger territory. It's got rugged terrain also. Right? They're going to have a fervent nationalistic resistance. Why? That's what they had when Iraq invaded. They're going to resist hard, right? And then you're going to be supplied with top-of-the-line U.S. weapons. I mean, you don't have to supply just key weapon systems. More TOW anti-tank missiles, right? More Hawk missiles, maybe some Stinger. Man, right? They're going to grind them to a halt, and they're going to be trapped in a quagmire being bled out. Don't give me this crap. Oh, Soviet Union could have taken over if Iran lost the war. Oh, bullshit. It was argued that Iran might turn to the Soviets to purchase weapons, given the Soviets' influence over Iran. However, first of all, the Soviets made the commitment to fight Iran and not support them. They were supporting Iraq with weapons, right? Why? Because Soviet Union was threatened by Iran's declaration. They're going to export the Islamic Revolution. Now, Soviet Union's vulnerable, right? So here is the old Soviet Union, which is Russia. I mean, this map looks big. Don't be don't be fooled by this map, right? This is not area realistic map. This is a flat map. You know, at the very top here, it comes to point. It comes to the North Pole. So this is all spread out. This is exaggerated the further north you go, right? The further you closer you go to the equator, it's more realistic, right? So it looks like Russia's huge, but it's not this big, right? It's spread out because up here at the North Pole, it's a point. Well, you not spread this out, right? Making you know what I'm saying, right? So it makes this a two-dimensional instead of a spherical thing. Okay, so anyways, this is the Soviet Union, included the Baltic states here, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Belarus, Ukraine, Moldova, all this stuff in the Caucasus here, Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, and then all of this, right? All these Asiatic Muslim, you know, this is all like Ottoman Empire stuff, and you know, was that Ottoman Empire? Well, Muslim Islam spread here. So if you look at this, let's see, Azerbaijan is Muslim, right? That's critical. Right on the border with Iran, you don't want Islamic Revolution spreading there because that can threaten breakaway, right? And that's a key source of oil and gas right there, Baku, right? Then you got the Caucasus right here. You got a strip of Islamic territories going across here, one of which is Chechnya. Chechnya has been a historic thorn in Russia and Soviet Union side, breaking away every time they have opportunity. 3 times it broke away. Russo-Japanese War and with the 1905 revolution, right? World War I with the Bolshevik Revolution. World War II with the invasion of Germany and Operation Barbarossa, coming in here into the Caucasus, trying to get the oil, right? And they went in here too, going up, you know, trying to take all of this. But all right, so that could threaten breakaway, right? Soviet Union is vulnerable. Turkmenistan is Muslim. Tajikistan over here is Muslim. Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, all Muslim territories. They're vulnerable. They fear spread of the Islamic Revolution, so they're anti Islamic Iran. All right. Yeah, that's it. Taking it all together, that's a huge chunk of the Soviet Union that's vulnerable, right? That is why the Soviet Union was committed to supplying weapons to Iraq and not Iran, right? They would not arm Iran because the Islamic Revolution was a threat to their own country. All right, how's the liars going to attack this? Oh, no one's going to remember tomorrow, so the liars will create a big wave. You just watch. Iran, as a religious state, was diametrically opposed to the Soviet Union, which was anti-religious and committed atheists. The religious leaders hated the Soviet Union. Now, does that mean they won't take weapons from them? No, they may take weapons from them, right? But they're not going to kowtow to the Soviet Union. They're not going to give the Soviet Union leverage, right? Before they yield any leverage to the Soviet Union, they're going to go somewhere else for weapons. And there's plenty of other sources of weapons, plenty of sources of U.S. weapons. They don't need Soviet weapons, right? And I say here, you know, just to show you how the religious leaders who ruled Iran, remember this is an Islamic republic, right? They had the Islamic Revolution. You know, the Ayatollah is really the top dog there, right? And they rule, right? And remember when Mossadegh was the prime minister and he nationalized oil in '51? Well, the CIA toppled him. One of the things the CIA did to topple him was to manufacture false evidence that he's tied in with the communists, right? Knowing that's going to piss off the religious leaders, which is a huge part of their country, right? Why? Because communists are anti-religion, atheist, right? That's Marxist crap, right? Religion is the opiate of the masses. Well, he said Christianity, I believe. He specified Christianity, but that's religion. No religion. It's all just like making the people feel good. That's all it's doing when they're getting screwed, right? Yeah, you're right. I mean, you know, religion is a lot more than that. True religion is a lot more than that. All Okay, so all of Iran's major weapon systems were made in the U.S. How's the Soviet Union going to help them out with that? What are they going to buy all new weapon system? Pay all that? No, they got tons of U.S. stuff. It's cheaper to keep it flying, keep it running, right? Can the Soviets help with that? No, right? You get it through Israel, right? You get it through the international arms dealers. There are plenty of them. The Senate Intelligence Investigation Report cited 41 nations through which U.S. weapons and repair parts flow to Iran. 41 nations, not just Israel. Israel was a big one, right? Iran didn't even need Soviet weapons with other sources available. For example, open market sales of U.S. weapons and parts. Also, they can get weapons elsewhere. You know, their cruise missiles that they use to whack Iraqi tankers, silkworm. You got them from China, right? Now they're communists, but hell, if you're going to buy communists, why buy Soviet who may try to, you know, bend your arm, right? You buy Chinese, right? And if they need small arm, what better source to get small arms, right, than China, which could probably, you know, crank out tons of those AK-47s or RPGs, right? Whatever, you know, small arms stuff they need, right? I mean, they got plenty of U.S. stuff still too, right? International arms merchants selling non-U.S. weapons, and Israel was a reliable source of weapons for Iran since the beginning of the war, all right? Even if Iran purchased Soviet weapons, which is like zero probability, right? It's like very extremely unlikely to be like zero probability. That would not necessarily give Soviets leverage over Iran. All right. And the reason why I say this, hey, did we sell Iran a lot of stuff? Did that give us leverage over them? Or did they turn around and say, oh, thank you very much, but screw you now? That's what they did. Right? They didn't give us the hostages. They took more. They killed some. They didn't give us, you know, what was, you know, the deal was for. All right. Oh, yeah, you know, the Soviets going to get leverage. Oh, my ass. Right? Iran would never kowtow to the Soviet Union and make itself vulnerable to leverage. Instead, they would, one, they'd seek other sources of weapons. All right? Two, maybe even play the U.S. against the Soviet Union. You know, hell, that's what Kuwait was doing. Right? Trying to court both. Play one side off the other so they're not, like, vulnerable to either side. Right? To leverage on either side. It was Iraq who was dependent upon, the Soviet weapons, right? They got weapons from, you know, other places. France was selling a lot of stuff. Britain was selling a lot of stuff. We sold them a lot of stuff. Hell, we sold them a lot of, WMD stuff. We sold them other dual use things. We helped them a lot with intelligence and all, right? Germany sold them some weapons. All right. So now Iraq needs Soviet weapons, right? And we're allies with Iraq. We're helping Iraq, right? Even as the Soviets supplied them weapons, we're allied with Iraq. Right. Secretary of State Schultz dismissed the notion that Iran was in danger of falling into Soviet hands, and I would agree. That's bullshit. Right? It's a joke. Okay, so let's talk about the lies that the Reagan administration conducted here. Senate Iran Contra investigation report recounts so many lies. I mean, it's a whole damn report full of lies. It's lie, right? Therefore, I will list only the categories of lies. I mean, you can't report. And you report on, like, literally you got to report like 60 to 70% of the whole document. I mean, it's just all lies. The whole thing was a lie. Therefore, I will list only categories of lies. So, you know, one is just flat out lies, false statements, right? Quote, false statements to Congress are felonies if made with knowledge of intent. Several administration officials gave statements denying NSC staff activities in support of the Contras, which North later described in his testimony as false and misleading, evasive, and wrong, right? So North is admitting that other people, he's lying himself, right? We're lying, right? Misleading statements. Okay, you're twisting the truth a little bit. It's not a flat out lie, but you're misleading. Manufactured, it's still a lie. Manufactured false chronologies of events. Shredded, destroying evidence. This is destroying evidence. Destroying evidence is a lie, right? Altered documents. Not only did they destroy documents, they altered them. They changed them. Smuggled documents out of the government offices, right? One example is North Secretary Fawn Hall, I believe was the name, right? She was kind of hot actually back then, right? Probably why North hired her. I'm just kidding. Plus, she's good at smuggling documents. I don't know. Countless failures to recall. Man, you would not believe, right? Oh, I don't recall, right? You know, they just say they don't remember jack, right? I remember watching the hearings. How old was I back then, right? 20, 22, no, 20, no, I was older. I was 25, right? I'm looking at these guys like, oh man, the bullshit you don't remember. You don't remember all this crap. Oh, bullshit, right? That's withholding information. That's withholding evidence. That's a lie, right? And the lies began with Reagan on down, right? From there, Casey, North, Poindexter, McFarland, Secor, they're all lying. They're all lying. Okay, so Reagan authorized the sale of weapons. So here's part of the Iran-Contra investigation report by the Senate, right? And I'll just read the first part of it. I'll read up to here, right? This is Reagan's lies, right? There's 7 of them, right? And this is all in a row here. I added the numbers here. So here are quotes. This is all quoted down to here, but I added the numbers. You're not going to see this in the document. They'll be like, oh, he didn't get that from. All right, I added this, right? In his first public announcement on the subject in November 6th, the president said that the reports concerning the arms sales had no foundation. A week later, on November 13th, the president conceded that the United States had sold arms, but branded as utterly false allegations that the sales were in return for release of hostages, right? Why? Because he said, we don't deal for hostages. We don't. The president also maintained that there had been no violations of federal law. Lie. At his news conference on November 19th, he denied that the United States was involved in Israeli sales that occurred prior to January 17th of 86. Lie. The president was asked, Mr. President, are you telling us tonight that the only shipments which were involved were the 1 or 2 that followed your January 17th finding, and that there was no other shipments which the U.S. condoned? Lie. 8 shipments in all. 6 of those fulfilling the deal. 8 shipments. The president replied, that is right. Oh, that's the same lie. That's not another one. I'm saying nothing but missiles were sold. Bullshit. You know how many TOW were sold by them? 1,504. Right? All total, there'd be 2,004. Right? 1,504, right? Right? Available for the Iranian offensive is huge. That's a lot of missiles. TOW are very effective. And on November 5th, 25th, the Attorney General with the President at his side announced at the press conference that the President did not know of the Israeli shipment until after they had occurred. He authorized this before it started in August of 85. This is lie after lie after lie. They're bullshit liars. All right. So here's a summary statement by the Senate Iran-Contra intelligence or investigation report. In light of the destruction of material evidence by Poindexter, North, and the death of Casey died the day after it started. Investigation. All the facts may never be known. The committees cannot even be sure whether they heard the whole truth or whether Casey's fall guy plan was carried out at public hearings, but enough is clear to demonstrate beyond doubt that fundamental processes of governance were disregarded and the rule of law was subverted. So all the facts may never be known. You know, They destroyed all sorts of documents. And you know what? Again, what's not mentioned in this whole thing? The curious absence of all discussion on the effect upon oil price. I mean, to me, how do you miss that? How do you not discuss? That's the first thing you look at, as far as I'm concerned. The first wait a minute, how's this going to affect oil price? That's the first thing you look at. I mean, it's just, any idiot should know that. Especially after oil price took down the economy, in the 70s, not just U.S. but the world economy. All right. So in other words, okay, where are we at here? In other words, there are so many lies and deceptions that the Senate will never know the whole truth. That is to say, what was the real purpose of the sale of weapons to Iran? Was it these excuses? These are all bullshit. That's not the real reason. It's not being said because we'll never know, right? From documents. All the documents were destroyed. You know what documents they destroyed? Oh, hey, what do you want for lunch today? Write down what you want for lunch. No, they're destroying the key. They're scouring through all the key documents. They destroyed them first. What do they leave behind? They leave behind the picture they want to paint. What is the picture they paint? Oh, we did this to get the hostages. We did this to get money to the Contras. Oh, bullshit. That's the crap they left behind. All the key. You know that they're destroying all the key documents and they're leaving only the ones that they want left behind to paint that picture, right? Which is the 4 bullshit cover stories. So we'll never know from documents what the sale weapons are really all about, right? But if you got half a brain, you know it's oil and oil price. All right, I shouldn't get so mad, but I hate being attacked, and I hate that everyone falls for it every time. It's just ridiculous. All right. So the curious absence. So I examined every reference to oil in the entire 722 pages of the Senate Iran Contra. It's easy. All you gotta do is write oil. Type in oil in a search. Like find. You click on find. In the box you type in oil. Boom. It comes up automatically every damn page. You go through one by one. Boom, 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 boom. Right. Goes pretty quick. Right. See what they're all about. Right. There's not one reference to the effect of the weapon sales upon oil price. Right. I mean, to me, that's incomprehensible. Right? In my opinion, because when it comes to conventional war between oil-producing nations in the Middle East, right, the single most strategic consideration is the impact upon oil price. In fact, that is the first thing I would ask if I were, involved in this. I mean, how's it gonna impact oil price? I mean, duh. To me, that is a 14,000-pound elephant. That's a big ass elephant. Africans get larger than Indian, right? That kind of reminds me of, like, I don't know why, but what came to my head is the line from the Monty Python Holy Grail. What is the airspeed of a swallow? African or European? Yeah. African elephant or Indian elephant? Yeah, funny how my brain works. Okay, so it's a big elephant. You can't even get around it. How are you going to miss this, right? Right? It's impossible to not notice this, and yet the whole document is clean of it. Right? Especially since just a few years ago, right? Half a decade ago, oil prices were whacked, right? And that killed the U.S. economy and the world economy. How are you not seeing this? And economics is a fundamental issue. Economics is a fundamental means of military power, right? That's what it comes down to. I mean, there's more than just that, but without that, man, you're screwed. How is that? So how is that completely overlooked, right? 14,000-pound elephant in the room. Recall Woolsey's statement: oil's monopoly over transportation and the cartel's control of a huge share of oil production together increasingly threaten our economic viability, our national security, and the stability of many other nations in the world as well. How do you not see that? All right? How is that not mentioned? Woolsey then said that destroying OPEC and oil's monopoly over transportation must be the quote, the first priority of those in government. How do you overlook that? Bullshit. As I showed above, the 4 cover stories are bullshit. Hostages, Contra money, Iraq winning the war, Soviet domination of Iran, or assistance to Iran, getting leverage that way up. Bullshit. And it is incomprehensible that that no one thought of the effect of supplying weapons to Iran would have on the war and on oil price, especially Toe and Hawk facilitating an Iranian offensive in which they seized Iraq's Faw Peninsula. Right? That's huge. Therefore, the effect of Iran-Contra weapons on oil price seems more like a dirty little secret to me. Why is no one talking about it? All right. So I will show that the United States fueling a war in the Middle East is not an isolated incident, right? So this is not. So we're selling weapons to both Iran and Iraq, fueling the war on both sides. This is not an isolated incident. We've created war repeatedly in the Middle East. I'm going to show you more. We'll go through the first Gulf War. We'll go through the war on terror, and we'll go through the Iraq invasion war, right? I know the masses cannot envision any of this at this point, and so the liars will attack and ask him, he's crazy, he's a lunatic, he's unreal. This is an isolated incident. It's not a pattern, right? He's crazy, right? They're going to attack, right? And if they scream loud enough, they pass it. That's the only thing going to be real in people's heads. I swear, people won't retain any facts. And the wave wins. It's how many times do I teach that? Thousands and thousands of times, and it still works every time. I swear. And because the masses know nothing right now, they will believe the simple. He's crazy. They'll believe the wave. You have to see the whole big picture, right? Of all that was done. And that's the hardest thing to do, because by the time I get to the end, no one remembers anything, right? I'm gonna have to draw a picture again, a one-page picture. Try to integrate it all, right? Then I draw a picture of how money is made, and then you got to hope that people retain that, right? That's faded too, like it's all crazy. Why? Because social reality says so. That's what everyone's saying. That's reality. Yeah, retard reality. Based on nothing, no facts retained. No intelligent analysis retained. But of course, the fundamental problem I face is the fact that the masses will not retain much of anything. That's true. I'm not going to go into this. All right. I'm going to skip Casey here because I can't prove anything. But you know what? You go through. This is all things from the report. How he's directing everything. How he's grooming everyone. Right. How he's selecting people. Right. It's like he's the key linchpin in all this. Right. I think to me, this was primarily conceived of and orchestrated by Casey, right? This is a Casey caper, CIA caper, right? Now I'm telling you right now, I don't think I got enough proof to prove it, but you go through. Hey, I'll let you read this on your own, right? All right. Okay. You can go back and pause it and read each one of them. Right. You go back to the document. Just look up the document. Google, find the Iran-Contra report document. Look up the pages, and you'll see that these, Casey was a key director of all this stuff. He was organizing this, directing this, right? Making personal. Let's see. I'll just go through it quicker. Groom North, giving advice, directing him, right? Casey conceived of the NSC. He conceived of the enterprise. Right. Then he selected the guys. He selected Secord, right? Why? Because he knew a Secord's covert operative background when he was in the Air Force, right? Casey set up the extra governmental, extra legal operations. North testified it was clearly indicated in McFarland before an extra, in fact, almost drawn up by Director Casey, how these would be outside the U.S. government. All right. Casey came up with the Contra fund, testified North testified the idea for maintaining this fund, the Contra fund with the enterprise, came from Director Casey. He's directing all this stuff. Casey came up with the ledger, how to track funds. You know, North controlled the ledger. Don't tell me he didn't know that the enterprise kept most of the money. He's controlling the ledger. Casey directed him to set up the ledger. Casey's directing all this stuff. He made personnel decisions, who to hire. North testified the idea to sell the enterprise to the CIA was Casey's, right? All right. All right, that's it for that. So let's review. Have there been multiple bullshit wave attacks? Yeah, there was a big preemptive attack before I started. Then there was a Mark Anthony post 24-hour attack just yesterday, right? Yeah, I know no one remembers jack squat, right? Well, what they got is the wave. I see a big wave. You know how retarded that is, right? But doesn't matter how many thousand times it's done. People fall for it every time. It's maddening, right? And then, so today, I knew that unless I go into more detail, people would say, "Oh, that's bullshit. Prove it to me." Well, I went through more detail. Went through the documents, right? The history of Reagan administration sale of weapons goes back well before Iran Contra. Goes to the start of his administration. All the policy broke, all the laws, all the stuff that would make you pissed off, crazy mad as an American, right? The shit that they did. A detailed examination of the 4 bullshit reasons for selling weapons to Iran. An examination of all the lies the Reagan administration told, how they destroyed all the documents, right? And how we'll never know what they were really doing this for. You know, and what they left behind. You know they're leaving it behind to try to paint the picture of the bullshit reasons. That's what they're leaving behind, right? They're painting the picture they want. The real reasons, you know, they're not saying squat about it. The curious, suspicious, total absence of all discussion of the potential impact of weapon sales on oil price. I mean, how do you miss that? That's the huge thing. And then all the ways Director Casey orchestrated, directed, and you know, I can't prove it, but I'm saying, man, he seems to me like the chief orchestrator of this whole caper, right? You know, this is a CIA caper. You know, no doubt this is exactly what the CIA make plans for. You know, they're always making schemes and they're playing games. They're gaming out things. How do you regain control of oil price in the Middle East? And you know, Woolsey says that you got to destroy it. I'm willing to bet that this is a total CIA caper, but I can't prove it, right? But I'm smart. I got a good brain. I figure out stuff, right? Although masses will never know that. They don't retain, you know, all the stuff that I've analyzed. And, all right. Okay, that's it for that.